To be honest with you, when I first started, I didn't really believe in myself. And I'll be quite honest, because I was at a shattered point in my life. As long as you like it, you guys ever seen somebody that's so confident in their product that eventually is like, what is it about that confidence that brings everybody's attention? And it's something just like when you deeply believe in yourself, regardless of what others have to say for you, at the end of the day, just time has to catch up. I think it's not more or less about like where you live or like what you have, more or less like what do you know, like what can you give? My mom always told me to be selfless in regards to anything. I believe in karma, so if I'm giving, I'm not going to expect it, but I know at some point there's going to be something that's going to come back my way. It might be the entitlement of, oh, I should expect this. I expect all the plays, I expect all the followers, I expect all the likes, but at the same time, you have to understand that, you know, everybody has their turn. When you're just consistently doing something over time, you know, the 1% effect, when you get 1% better every day, it's at some point it's going to catch up.
Yo, what's going on, world? It's your boy Poncho here. Welcome to episode 34 of the Encore Podcast. If this is your first time listening, this is a podcast for artists, musicians, anyone with a passion for music and art that wants to turn it into a full-time business. So if that's you, subscribe, tap in with the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Cruz.
What's up, Poncho? How you doing, bro? So today, this is an exciting conversation for us. It's a little
very different, but I'm excited.
Different, but it's definitely important conversations that's going to be had today. So we're here today with Avi Wizwer, content creator, motivational speaker, and host of the 1% podcast, 1% podcast, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And the GOAT.
For sure. So he has a lot of great things to say. Check out his content. He's always very motivational. He always helps keep your head in the right direction and on the right path. So it's great to have you today, Avi. How you feeling today?
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes,
Thank you
a
lot.
Yo, I remember this quote. It's like people don't need to like be taught stuff. They need to be reminded of stuff. I'm paraphrasing, but I feel like you're great at reminding people, like, you know, where they should be headed.
I think with that, it's, I don't know. It's just, I don't know if I have like a knack for it or just something, but sometimes when people are going through things, they just, the type of things that I say, they just need to hear it. And I don't know what it is. It's not like, I guess it's just subconsciously me thinking about it or me going into my creative process about it. But whenever I just produce and create, that's exactly when they need it, you know? And I think that's really what it's all about, in inspiring and motivating and trying to give advice to others is exactly when they need it at the exact time. And there's never like an algorithm for it, or just, you just kind of figure it out as you go along, and
Feel it.
It's just something that you feel, and I've always gone by, like, if I need to hear it, then I know somebody else needs to hear it.
That's a fact.
And that's just really what I go into with that process.
Hell yeah. Okay. I bet. So could you tell the people who do not know you where you're born,
Okay.
where you grew up, and how you got started doing what you do today?
Okay. So I'm from Austin, New York. Shout out to everybody from the 914.
Yes, sir.
And I grew up here playing basketball, and that's really what I love to do growing up. And that was a little of my escape, you know what I mean? From day-to-day life, from everyday life. That's really something that I tried to engulf myself in. And for a very long time, that's exactly what it was able to do. You know, it brought me that comfort. It brought me that peace. You know, when you're just out there doing drills and stuff like that, you just feel tranquil, and there's nobody else in the world that can really say anything to you. You're at like a Zen state. I don't know if anybody, you know, meditates, but that's really what it is. It's just you, the basketball, and the hoop. So growing up, that's really what it did. And I would say throughout, once COVID hit, I didn't really know what to do. And at that point in time, I was going through a very like rough patch in my life where I just got out of a relationship, and, you know, everybody's first heartbreak. Mm-hmm. So it was very tough, and I had to figure out what can I be able to do to cope with it, with basketball being kind of in and out. And it was kind of like a love-hate, like toxic relationship, and I felt like I needed to leave.
With the girl or basketball?
Basketball.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Basketball. It was kind of one of those things where it's like I still loved you, but I didn't know how much more I could still love you, because I've been, you know, neglecting other sides of myself. And there was, for many times, I didn't have a purpose without basketball. And unless you're going to like the NBA or you're going to play overseas, then there's really no way that you could be able to. And I didn't really want to teach others and coach others. So for me, it was just all about, what can I find that I could do? And I remember in the pandemic, I listened to a podcaster and a public speaker, Jay Shetty, and he...
Oh, shout out Jay Shetty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay Shetty, he's a great guy. And she said, what can you provide for the world? What does the world need? And what do you love to do? And I thought about like, what does the world need right now? We're inside. We have our phones. We have nothing to do. I might as well just start creating. And my friends would always come to me for advice, you know, whenever they needed it. They always felt like I could create a safe space for them and I could be able to give them exactly what they needed to hear at that point in time. And one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, told me, just go for it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? He believed in me and I didn't really believe myself. So I was like, I'll just go for it. You know, I have no schoolwork, nothing to do. So I might as well do it. And once I started creating, it was a journal for not only me, but it was kind of like timestamps in my life, like what I was going through and the process of coming out of heartbreak and trying to deal with those emotions, trying to process those emotions and trying to deal with how can I better myself? And obviously people were depressed. People were anxious about what was going on. So I found out that it helped them as well. So I'm like, oh, if it's helping me and it's helping them and it's keeping me occupied and it's helping me journal out my thoughts, then I might as well keep going. And over time, it was something that I found purposeful. Like I woke up and I was like, this is something that like I could do. Like I love it. You know what I mean? Just wake up and process my emotions, go through meditation states and just kind of sit there and just be able to hash all that out with others for comfort for me and comfort for everybody else. I think it was something that kind of was like a statement on it. Like, this is what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. And that's just what I found love in. And I've been doing it ever since.
So starting out, you had an idea that you wanted to go for the motivational route for other people, that you really wanted to be a positive voice on their shoulder. Like you saw that lane for yourself, like right when you started shooting content?
Honestly,
or is that something you worked towards? Just
to be honest with you, when I first started, I didn't really believe in myself.
Yeah.
And I'll be quite honest, because I was at a shattered point in my life where I was trying to build up my self-confidence after getting out of a bad relationship. So I had to build myself up. So I'm trying to stack the bricks. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting there, but I, second guess myself. Oh, should I post this? Should I post that? And sometimes that has still happened to me, because once you gain a platform, you gain traction, it's like you need to produce the best content. But I've always thought that as long as you like it, other people will eventually like it. Once you start producing that, and to your appeasement, everybody else will eventually come along with you.
Yeah, I see that with a lot of content creators. They say that too. Like when people are asked, like, how do you choose what content to make? And they're like, I make content for myself. And that works for a lot of people. Like a lot of the top platforms really have that same mentality. Like in a lot of ways, they make it for themselves. So yeah.
I think it's just also too, with that being said, I think as long as you like it, and we've seen artists, we've seen a whole lot of people, as long as you like it, eventually when you guys ever seen somebody that's so confident in their product that eventually it's like, what is it about that confidence that brings everybody's attention? And it's something just like when you deeply believe in yourself, regardless of what others have to say for you, and you know what's right and you know what you're doing is good and it's good for the world and good for yourself. At the end of the day, just time has to catch up because, I believe that everything always catches up once you just continue to produce that.
Did you have a target audience in mind when you were starting to get going? And like, did you find that? At what point did you realize, like, do you have that now? Or is it kind of like anybody who might be, like, how would you describe your target audience that you're shooting for right now?
My target audience right now, I would say a lot of them are in the self-development, coming out of a relationship, trying to be able to gain confidence on themselves. And I feel like that is my audience, but also trying to motivate people. And I've gotten, the self-love, the motivational, the purposeful. But as I started to read books, I wanted to get into a whole bunch of other thoughts. I believe in stoicism and all of those, the great thinkers, the great philosophers. And over time, I'm like, I want to be able to be a motivational speaker, but I also want to practice philosophy. Like I want to be able to come up with my own practices, my own philosophies, and share them with the world. just from reading others and, just being present, being still. So the target audience I guess I would have now is just people that are just trying to better themselves in any way, whether they're hurt, whether they're successful, whether they're in the middle. It's kind of those people that I think that are my target audience right now.
Yeah, I could see that about your content. It's like it really could touch anybody. Like most of the things that you post could really touch people at any point that they are in their life, because there's always some sort of growth that we can be pursuing.
And that's rare. It's not a lot of creators that can do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's also with that too is that there's no limit. Like just because I may be younger, I'm always trying to constantly learn. And by me being a student, I don't think I'm right. I don't think I'm wrong. I'm just viewing it from my perspective and giving it to the world and having them decide what they want to do with that.
I have a question that I didn't write this down, but as soon as you said that, I just thought about it. I don't know if you know who Andy Frisella is.
I do not.
Okay, so he has a podcast called Relay F, business podcast. There's some political shit that is not for me, but the business shit is A1. And he talks about like when you're super young, how a lot of people, it's hard to get people to take you serious. Is that something you ever experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely happened a lot.
Yeah.
It's definitely happened to me a lot.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
So my thing is, and I've expressed this with some of my friends, but I feel like right now, being that I'm about to be 23, I feel as if I could be able to hold an event for myself and, maybe others that are in the same field as me. I'm not saying it's got to be like, the greatest like Los Angeles or nothing, but I feel like a small venue I could definitely hold. And there's a lot of people that want to see that, that'll message me. I want to see you at a venue sometime, where you just have 50 people in the audience. And I think not only would that be a good test for myself, but I really would want to see what that would feel like, just seeing 50 people there and going through a process, because people think it's just you're just talking, but you have to create a plan. You have to create what you're talking about. You got to stick to the script kind of a little bit, but kind of can go around it. But I think people overlook that because I'm so young, or because of the platform that, in this comparison society, others would deem that people have more than I do. And they're like, oh, this guy, he's verified and all of these great things. And, just off a blue check, somebody could be able to, that may be less qualified than you, can now get that opportunity because of the blue check. And I've always told myself, once the blue check for me, I could care less. Yeah. What the fuck comes with that? Like, I'm not looking to go out here to talk to, girls or trying to hook up with people. Like, to me, it's business opportunity. Like, when I see that blue check, like, I'm trying to talk to Russ. I'm trying to talk to Jay Shetty. Like, I'm trying to talk to Gary Vee. I could give a hell with anything else about it. And that's what is so accustomed to social media now, that, oh, well, let me get the blue check so I could get these crazy things and get these materialistic things. But for me, I'm looking at it as a business opportunity. And once I get that, then the whole world is in my hands. Like, I could talk to anybody. People won't talk to you just because you don't got a blue check.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
It is.
How crazy is that? People won't talk to you.
There's two sides. There's two sides to this, right? Because we have a lot of artists that hit us up because we have the music review show, and I'm not gonna front and be like, yeah, the blue checks, like, I will give a little bit more priority to. It just shows it. I always look for people that are serious, and that is one thing that shows that you are serious, that you've done something substantial that has gotten you some sort of recognition. But I do think a lot of people will bend backwards over blue checks, and that's not it, bro. That's not it.
There's some social media marketing that are like, you're paying for a blue check. Why am I paying for a blue check? Why am I spending a couple grand for a blue check?
It does push your, like, if you comment on something, you'll kind of be shown to people like first, and obviously people click you more and say, I see why people would pay for it.
I understand it too.
More than likes. This
is the same way I feel about networking events. All these people that go to networking events, it's like all these people are trying to look the part, look dope when they have nothing to offer. Like, this is not my interview. This is not my interview.
No, but it's not about what you look like by what you have. It's about what value can you give.
Yes, 100%.
It'll always be about what value.
For
you
sure.
100%.
What can you give to somebody else without expecting anything in return? And people will give, and they'll be like, oh, like, I'm waiting for an opportunity. But what can you do as a person to help their life? So you could be able to get in the right position. Like, I've always said that I've wanted to get an internship for Gary Vee. And like, if I had to eat shit, I'm learning from him. I'm helping him with little tasks. I'm giving him value. I don't know as much as him. He has a business. He's multi-millionaire, you know, probably going to buy the jet someday, million followers on Instagram and TikTok. But by doing those little things, I can be able to give him value now. And now I'm valuable. And then that internship could turn into, oh, hey, you want a job? Or, oh, I got an event and I know you do this. So I'll give you this. I wouldn't expect anything in return.
Yo, with that mindset that you just described, which I personally feel like is the way to go, especially if you're trying to have any sort of success in the world. 98% of people don't have that. How before you even say why, well, actually, I do want you to say why, but and on top of that, how did you develop that?
I've just been, my mom always told me to be selfless in regards to anything. You know, you give, and I believe in karma. So if I'm giving, I'm not going to expect it, but I know at some point there's going to be something that's going to come back my way. Like, I'm not sitting here, oh, it could be the next day. It could be 5 years from now. Just because I, you know, maybe on the street gave somebody $10 that maybe needed it. At some point, I believe that, you know, it comes back around. And if you're going to be good to the world will be good back to you. But I feel like it might be the entitlement of, oh, I should expect this because I'm doing, you know, something that I love to do. So now I expect all the plays, I expect all the followers, I expect all the likes. But at the same time, you have to understand that, you know, everybody has their turn. You know, when you're just consistently doing something over time, you know, the 1% effect, when you get 1% better every day, it's at some point it's going to catch up. And I think that's really what it boils down to. People want just to take, but they don't ever want to give. And you have to give in order to get.
That's real.
Yeah. How would you, so you've built such a, we didn't even talk about your numbers, bro. How many followers do you have on TikTok? Like, we probably should have led with that. How many followers do you have on TikTok at this point, bro?
I just hit 215,000 followers.
Damn, that's incredible, bro.
TikTok.
Damn. So at what point did that growth start to really happen for you? Like, was there a moment, was there a video that like, or how, like, how would you draw your graph with your hand right now of your growth? Like, if you can.
So honestly, as of recent, it's been kind of like,
it's been stagnating a little bit?
It's been stagnating, kind of like a little bit down, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that's been more of like a character test for me. Because last summer is really when things started to pop off. I started to get, was it last summer? It was either last summer or this summer. No, last summer. I dropped, you know, the segment, like 4 things you need to hear. And, you know, that would be quotes that I come up with, some things that I see and I think just people need to hear those. And by the grace of social media, some people sent me that, you know, Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom, posted one of my videos. All these accounts, you know, that had several million followers started posting. And at that time, it's like it's a dopamine rush. Like, you see it like, oh shit, like I'm finally doing something. But then when this summer haven't really kind of been on a stagnant level, it's like, all right, let's get back to the basics. Like, let's get back to what we were doing before. Like, let's continue to instill that confidence in myself so I don't burn out. And that's sometimes I feel like what happens with a lot of creators or people that are trying to go after something. They produce, but then when they don't see the numbers that they want, that's when they get discouraged and they stop producing. But how can you handle those storms? How can you handle those times of conflict and that chaos if you're not level-headed, if you're not creating character? Because at the end of the day, I was Avi before the world saw me as Avi. And you have to just continue to instill that into yourself and continue to build on that in order for other people and yourself to kind of gain that high confidence again.
So how have you been working through that? Now that you see numbers sort of maybe plateauing, maybe sinking a little bit, how have you been able to, like, what is your creative decision process like now that you recognize that? Like, are you trying to look at comments a little bit more to see what they like and don't like? Like, what's your mindset at this point?
Definitely comments. Definitely asking other people, you know, for a suggestion. What do you guys want to see? You know, I'll put on polls on my Instagram, like, what kind of topics do you guys want to see? I'll ask people that I know that appreciate my content, watch my content. What do you guys want to see on the podcast or videos? And I think it's just all about seeing that the videos that have gone, I guess, viral, it's like you deserve to be here. And just constantly telling yourself you deserve to be here, because you wouldn't get recognition if you didn't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And like that's just the same thing for you guys. You guys had some great guests.
Thank
So
you.
if you guys are hitting, plateaus, it's like you guys have some great guests. So it's nothing to do. It's just you just got to be able to stay focused within that storm. And once you come out of it, you'll be a lot stronger than when you went in there. So
Thank you.
I guess just trusting the process and just continuing to trust yourselves, even though you guys may have not seen the productions level. It's just understanding that you were where you were at. You're not there now, but that doesn't take away credibility from the products and what you guys produce.
And building off of that a little bit, what about how do you go from having an idea to actually executing on it? Like, could you speak on your creative process a little bit? Like, do you have a release schedule? Do you force yourself to come out with something once every couple days? How do you create content? Like, what's your workflow on that?
So there's honestly, a lot of my content comes from either self-talk, like talking within my head, or maybe, if I'm in a safe space, I'll talk to myself, but also conversations. Like a lot of the conversations that I'll get from a lot of people, whether it's my mom, whether it's somebody that I don't know, somebody that I do know, younger, older, doesn't matter. Just taking those little things that it's like, oh, that kind of sparked an idea. So now let me talk to myself about it. How can I evaluate this idea, this thought, and produce it to the world? So especially as of recent, I believe that sometimes it's not about how much you produce, but like the quality of it. How good is it?
Really?
Because I think that sometimes when you produce more than if the content is not, and the quality of the content is not great, and you're just force feeding it, then it's like you can tell. You know what I mean? You can tell that maybe you weren't in the right headspace that day. So now you're just force feeding it. Now you're just giving the people kind of not a fully produced or fully, I guess, transformed thought into a product. It's sometimes when I listen to albums, I'm like, this was rushed. Or this shouldn't have been released. I could say from, Juice WRLD's album, or the people that have died, like Pop Smoke, they just released it. They knew that wasn't his best work.
Yeah, that gets deep.
They knew that wasn't his best work, but they knew what was coming with that.
That gets deep.
Juice WRLD has like 1,000 songs and on SoundCloud, and I've heard some of his greatest songs. I'm like, why is this song not on the album?
Yeah.
And it's force feed, like X, like too. Like people when they looked at,
milked the shit out of X. I'm not gonna lie.
And like that's somebody that to me I like look up to, because he towards the end of his life, he was like a philosopher. Like when he went on IG Live and he was talking about some real shit.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm intrigued by this, and you just can see it. And to me, I feel like that's where it goes. It's not quality. That's just we wanted to force feed you guys.
Yeah.
So it's not good. It's not appeasing to the people. And I would say, especially as of recent, because life's been a little chaotic as of recent, I've not produced as much as I usually have. But I think going into that, if you're not, you can continue to create. And I feel like the only way to get out of a creative rut is to create. But if you're not in a good headspace, I think you should take time for yourself, because you've gone to that point for so long. Like Kendrick didn't drop his album until now, and the last time he dropped something was like 2016, and he was going through some shit, but you got to worry about you, because the consumer might not really worry about you. Like, oh, where's Kendrick been at? Oh, we might never see him again. But you got to understand that you got to take care of you. And how all this ties together is that the quality of the content is the most important thing. And I think that whatever ideas I may come up with, if I'm in a creative flow, if I'm in a thoughtful flow, then the thoughts will just flow. So it's either I'm writing it down, I'm journaling, I'm talking to myself, I'm taking conversations that I've had and just going with that and creating that into deeper thought.
Damn, that was beautifully said, bro. I really resonate with a lot of what you just said. Like,
Thanks,
it makes sense, especially in the TikTok and real space, where it's like, if you see your head pop up, and the last 5 times your head popped up, you contributed something that was substantially valuable, and I could feel it. the sixth time it comes up, you're gonna listen. But if the last 2 times it was something that's like, it's more scroll throughable.
Yeah,
like, you want every time that you pop up, it's something that's like your best work. Whether it's once every couple days, maybe a couple weeks, months is stretching it. But like, you gotta still release. But it makes sense what you're saying though a lot. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
And it's like the consumer could be like, oh, we've heard this before.
Yeah, that too.
And there's a lot of, albums I feel like as a recent, I guess since this is a music podcast, I guess I can relate it to a lot of, musicians and albums, but a lot of the music sounds the same. Like you listen to it, it's like, I've already heard this before. It's not like a sensual experience. And to me, that's what I think it's really all about, just being able to go into that creative flow.
That's a fact. Okay. Yo, I want to dive into something a little bit different.
Okay.
So another conversation that I've had to have with myself, and I've heard on several different podcasts, is business versus health. Now, you preach a lot about taking care of yourself, putting yourself first, just doing what you need to do to feel all right, so you can actually do what you need to do in business, art, music, whatever it is. A lot of artists take the opposite approach, where it's, I'm gonna stay up for 3 days straight, smoke 6 blunts to the face, bottle of Henny, and just make 20 songs. Do you prioritize your business or your health first? I'm assuming you're gonna say your health, but
yeah, because
why?
You down Henny 6 blunts, what is that gonna do for you later in your life? The temporary decision.
They're worried about later.
Well, that's a permanent decision now, because you're taking a temporary feeling for a long-term permanent decision. You want to sacrifice your health right now, but you're going to pay for it at the end of your life, And Logic, I listened to Logic, and he said, I think it was on one of his albums, he talked about we spend so much money on our health when all we could have just done with our health is just spend time like with our loved ones. We're going like 70 hours, 80 hours on a production, but we're going to pay for that at some point. There's a quote that I've heard in one of, I think it was Doctor Strange, the bill always comes due. So you're always going to pay for that bill, regardless if it's now or later. That's going to catch up to you. If you don't prioritize your health, like I've seen the most physically fit people, but they still die because of like something with their heart, something with their kidneys. Why do you think that is? Because they didn't take enough time within their internal, meditate, journal, create the stress-free life for themselves, and they end up dying. So I'd rather focus on my health because, I might not be able to produce for maybe a month, 2 months, but if my health is right, then I can produce at any time.
Okay.
I can be able to get into that creative flow a lot easier. If my health is
I agree with that. I personally see sometimes that a lot of people will use that as an excuse and go out for 2 months saying they're healing and not create shit.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between actually doing it and saying that you're doing it. Like if you're actually doing it, if you're actually, working on yourself, if you're actually doing all the necessary steps, then more power to you. But if you're just talking about it, like anybody could talk a big game, but are you actually doing it? Are you taking those necessary steps in order to, and honestly, for a while that was kind of a little bit of myself. Like when I had to, when I was preaching to the people, I had to be able to start living the life a certain way. I noticed like in the morning, I wasn't really making my bed, but I talk about discipline. So how can I be disciplinary if I can't even make my bed? How can I talk to people about, being healthy if I'm not physically fit, or I'm not mentally fit, or emotionally fit? It's all about what you do to yourself. Is you got to be able to give that to other people. You got to live by what you preach and what you talk about.
That's a fact.
Are you somebody that takes a lot of influence from other people that you watch, or is most of the things that you come up, most of the content ideas that you come up with, like really just from your own real world, your own personal experience? Like, do you have people that you watch and try to like replicate their sort of like? How do you approach that?
I think we, as content creators, we all take inspiration from somebody. We live in, I would say, as a content creator generation where, I created this. There's a lot of other people that created things, and just because you might have created it don't feel angry or envious. Instead, you should feel like inspired and loved because somebody took the time out their day to be able to be like, I like this thought. Let me now elaborate that. There's like 2 content creators that I follow, and I think they're like big time creators, but he got called out because it was like an affirmation wallpaper on the phone. And one of the smaller creators
he created, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't essentially like word for word, tat for tat, but the guy's got 600K and the other one's got 30K. And he obviously took inspiration from him. You know, he wanted to be able to produce not the same thing, but somewhat similar. It was like an affirmation post, like, you know, I'm going to continue to work, you know, all those things like positive affirmations. And the creator got upset and went on Twitter and tweeted. And I'm sitting there like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just rather spread love instead of spread hate? Why do we have to be like, oh, you took this idea from me? Okay, but you might have took that idea from somebody else and you just didn't verbalize it. So I think instead of, if it's an exact tat for tat, then obviously we need to give that person credit, but we can also give somebody credit if they inspired us.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it's all about. Inspiring one another. Why do we have to be, oh, I created this first, so I have to be the owner and nobody else can do it? That doesn't make sense. You know, when Future came along, then everybody wanted to do, you know, the drill type rap, you know? Especially, I just think about it like that. You know, if somebody started drill music and then somebody else wants to put their own spin on it, but the same type of concept, what's wrong with that? It's their own flow, but it's something that, yes, obviously you created and you inspired. So instead of feeling hate or envious about it, why don't we just spread love instead and create a community? But people rather just be like, I created this or I created that. But in terms of, you know, personal creation, there's definitely people that I'm inspired by. Absolutely. I'll see there and I'm like, where did he come to that thought? I kind of want to know, like, what books did he read or what is he doing that maybe I'm not doing that I can now create those things? And it's not more or less like, oh, I'm envious of this person because he created that type of content. But no, I want to be able to understand where he got to that thought. So now I could be able to produce a similar thought to it. Or maybe a different perspective that somebody maybe not have thought of. But in the terms of like owner, you know, everybody wants to be an owner, but sometimes got to take inspiration from the players or the fans.
I never understood that shit. Like, you know, if someone's copying you, it means you're doing the right shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I never understood that. All right, I need you to talk your shit for a second.
Okay.
All right. In your opinion,
yep,
why do people fuck with your content?
I think it's authentic. I think it's genuine. I think it's from the heart.
How do you display that?
When people sometimes, I mean, I'm just going off of what people tell me. That people will tell me it's genuine. You know, not a lot of people are actually genuine, like real within their words or real within their actions. And authentic is in, this doesn't seem like it's fabricated from somewhere else. And I think that's why people may like my content, because it's real, raw, you know, what you need to hear. And some people may like the truth, but some people, you know, run away from the truth. But the truth will always set you free. And what you need to hear or what you need to do. And not only within you, but also within myself. If I'm preaching that, I have to be able to do that within myself.
Can I speak for you a little bit?
Yeah. What's going on?
So something I've noticed in the streaming era, that a lot of times the biggest streamers are people that don't have the most flashy setup. They have people that are like, they look like they're just in their like dusty bedroom, or just something that's more organic and like authentic, or like something that would be more genuine. You know what I mean? So when you take your videos, they're not super high produced. It's usually just you holding your phone and just talking in right to it, and not and like I would say that builds a very organic and humbled and like gracious vibe. So I would say, and your tone of voice too, like you speak very, like you're not trying to be like, hey, so today wake up and like you're like this, like you bring it very calm and just like, this is how I'm feeling in this moment. I just want to share that with you. So I get that vibe for you, and I just want to say, just as like somebody that's like a fan at this point, like I really fuck with your style.
If people actually saw the car that I drove, they'd be like, I think it's not more or less about like where you live or like what you have, more or less. It's about like, what do you know? Like, what can you give? Like I elaborated. Like I have a Kia Rio 2009 with roll down windows. That doesn't make me less of a valuable person.
No.
It doesn't make me, not this maybe high status person, but if people actually just saw, I do now my podcast on my kitchen table or in my bedroom on a what is it? It might be like a closet type thing, like a cabinet.
Yeah.
It's not about your setup because people will see the setup. You know what I mean? Like when you guys have guests, they might see the setup, but then 10 years down the line, it's like, oh, now it's I got this building. I own the whole building. Like I have my own studio,
That's
So it's about really, honestly, it's just doing what you can with what you can.
Yeah.
And like kind of how you told me before the podcast started, just do what you can.
Sounds better than nothing.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Being genuine, within what you're preaching.
Hell yeah.
Word.
Okay. So, I love this conversation so far.
Thanks.
We have a jar. It's called the Jar of Deep Ass Questions. A bunch of questions related to life, just being the best version of yourself possible. And you want to do one each?
Yeah, we'll do one each.
All right, so
Yeah, so you just pick a random one out.
Yeah,
read it to you.
facts.
Whatever we got for you. So
All right,
It's,
let's do it. I like this.
you know what? This one's kind of generic. I want to find something spicier.
Okay.
I'm gonna read mine first.
You got
All
it?
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what would you say the most agonizing part of being a content creator is for you?
The most agonizing part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that's very
It
frustrating
gets
for
Avi
you.
fucking tight.
I think the thing that really kind of gets me upset is kind of how we like elaborated before. I've noticed about the content that I may create. It may not get the views that I may want, or I think it's some of my best work. But at the end of the day, I think that's that agonizing part in creating it and putting the time and effort. But even though it may have not gotten results, I think just the time and effort that you put into it is the most important part. Like if you spend hours just working on a piece, or even if you feel like it's your best work and you still created it and put it out to the world, regardless if it did numbers or not, it's still something to hold yourself up on. And I think obviously that's something that I've tried to get myself away from, and feeling like the need to have the venue now, but just understand that it will come with time, and maybe I need to do more opportunities. I maybe need to go on more podcasts or
You do.
things like that, just to be able to kind of establish myself more. And I think with due time that will eventually present itself. But I would say that putting time into your work and maybe not seeing the results can definitely discourage you a lot. It's definitely discouraged me, but not being so caught up on the likes, the views, the followers, whatever it is, and just being so focused and intentional with your content. So I would say
That's a great answer. Yeah.
That's fire.
I would say that's the hardest part.
Okay. Last question of the night.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. It's actually a 2-part question.
Okay.
What was the best decision you made in your career and the worst?
The best decision I've ever made in my career was to just produce. That was the best
Go.
decision. Just trust. And
So right at the beginning of it.
right at the beginning, just trust.
Yep.
If I would never listen to my best friend, I never would have been here. Just trust yourself, and that's the best decision I've ever made. Collaborating with others, is something that I've been more invested in, because you collab with others. Oftentimes we want to just create it ourselves, like we talked about, or we don't want to be able to work with other people, but we can go only so far by ourselves. But the more people that we tag along with and we create as like a team, as a squad, that we can go a lot farther.
That's a fact.
So
yeah.
I would say just create, and whatever it is, like literally just create. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling underwhelmed, if you're feeling anxious about your work, once you just create, everything else comes after that. And in terms of my worst decision, I wouldn't say that I have a worst decision, because every decision led me to this point. So I can't
regrets.
really have a regret off of anything.
Yeah.
If anything, it was more of a learning lesson.
Yeah.
If anything, it was something that I maybe needed to learn. Oh, I can't be so caught up on this. I can't be so caught up on that. Because it got me to this point. And I'm a type of person that I like to live with no regrets. I did it at that moment because I felt that was what's right. So if I can live with that and live with the results and not be so caught up on it, then I had to do it for a reason. You know, everything always happens for a reason. So I think that that's something that I live by. So I wouldn't say that I have any bad decisions.
No pressure to answer that. Like, well, you answered it, but not to give anything in particular. So, yeah.
Nah, that was fine. I fuck with that answer.
Yeah, I like that answer.
Okay, yeah. I agree, and I agree.
You agree? If you disagree, we could talk about that.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. There are certain things that for me personally, that I wish I could have done differently.
Just not have done because
it's just not have done. But
took a long time.
You feel me? But you know, it is what it is. I used to own a concert venue that I lost a fuck ton of money on. Very long story. We can get into that off camera. But just shit. There's a lot of shit. But anyway, this is not about me. This is about our amazing guest who I appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Avi, bro.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Could you tell the people where to find you on social media?
So you on Instagram, you can find me at Avi_Wizwer. No, Avi__. It's either _Avi Wizwer or
It's underscore first, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
And then it might be that we definitely double check on that.
Pacha, you
I'll
better
put
get
it in.
the-
I got it.
But _Avi Wizwer on TikTok and the 1% podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yes, sir.
Underscore first.
Underscore first. So
Yeah.
_Avi Wizwer on Instagram and TikTok. And the 1% podcast on Apple and Spotify.
Yes, sir. Hell yeah.
Thank you guys, man.
No, we're here. Yo, I know you learned some shit from this podcast and I know you laughed. So please subscribe to the channel. Tap in with us. Tap in with Avi. Bro, this is like the fourth pod in a row. I forgot my fucking outro.
That's all right. That's part of the outro at this point. It's all good though. So
please subscribe, feel me, tell a homie, smash the like button, all that YouTube shit. Thank you, and we'll be back next week with another dope episode. I think that's it. I don't fucking know. Thank you for watching.